charity to one another. Help us.
Honorable Minister, the indefatigable DG of NIDA, the other agencies that have come for this public hearing. I'll give my remarks from here so that I won't waste time going to the podium and coming back. I would just like to commend the chairman of the committee and add my voice to the people who have pointed out the speed at which this bill got to this stage. And to say that apart from this public hearing stage, maybe when you say that you are expecting to see so many people here, but the room looks scanty considering the interest that the bill has generated. We actually had several discussions with stakeholders. And in fact, in one of our interactive sessions, we had to come to this hall because there were so many young men and women, members of the committee that we interacted with. So this public hearing is just the culmination of several discussions. I know we went specifically to Lagos, which is the heart of the ICT ecosystem in Nigeria, and met with several companies to discuss the impact of the startup bill and to get their comments. When we sat with Flutterwave, we sat with a young group of crypto traders who have been put out of business by CBN. So this is really the culmination of several months of work. I can say that maybe we have written memoranda that will address some of those issues, but for me the key questions that came up were the issue of funding. The bill sets up a seed fund. But even at the committee level, I think we noticed that there was no definition to that fund. Where is the money coming from? We all know where NIDA is getting funding from. We really set up the Police Trust Fund, which is also very clear as to where that funding is coming from. I think before this bill gets to the final stage, you need to be very, very clear about funding. And when we talk about funding, we're talking about seed funding. It's very, very important to emphasize that this is not money that we are going to use to match what is coming from external investors abroad. That is for companies that maybe were startups but have gotten to the level where they are beginning to attract the attention of investors. Seed funds are not huge amounts of money. Lagos State government has an agency that essentially is the micro version of what we are trying to do here. And they have been giving out seed funding to now maybe about 60 or 90 startups, between the range of $9,000 to $12,000. And that is really all that is required for the startups that we have in mind. People make the mistake of saying, when we talk about the huge money that is coming in, $1.3 billion. This year we had about $540 million in the first year. But that was restricted to just 28 deals, which is averaging $20 million. That is not seed funding for startups, in all honesty. If we take that amount and copy what Lagos State is doing, you'll be funding 6,000 young people. And that is what really translates into jobs, like the DG Nida was saying. And I hope that we don't get carried away by the stories of our unicorns, $1 billion companies. Those are companies that, even at international level, are big companies. But we are talking really, from my perspective, to encourage young people to translate ideas into practice. Again, almost everything that's coming into Nigeria is more or less in the Fintech environment, which is not surprising considering how robust our electronic banking system is. We probably have one of the best real-time banking payment systems in the world. And of course, there are problems that arise from that in terms of security. So it's those gaps that startups are coming to fill, Paystack, Flutterwave, and so on and so forth. But there are other opportunities. E-governance, which is the next big thing as far as I'm concerned. The president just set up the committee to speed up the process of e-governance. By the time we start to really transit from what we are doing now to proper e-governance, there's going to be so many opportunities for young people. The ideas are not going to come from civil servants. They are going to come from young men and women who see the problem and then quickly identify these solutions and apply it. It's also going to be in healthcare, it's going to be in education. ASU has been on strike for God knows how long now. I'm sure there's a lot of young men with ideas on how to translate that problem into a solution. These are the areas that we need to look at, and these are the areas that we begin to focus on funding anybody with an idea. The third and final issue that also came up is the labeling stage. People are a bit concerned about the fact that with labeling, maybe you are giving government the right to choose winners and losers, and to make it a bit more flexible. We talk about being in existence for 1 year for you to, qualify to be labeled. From a startup perspective, from coming across a problem to having that light bulb moment and coming, it could be a week or 2 weeks. I think we should also look at that. Have a situation where if somebody comes with a brilliant idea that we know will work, then of course the powers that be can say we can translate that immediately into a situation where we think this idea is good, and we should encourage it. If we have restrictions as to say, okay, you have to be in place for 1 year or so on and so on, maybe it takes out a large chunk of the innovation that we are trying to encourage. Having said that, I can assure you that this stage of the process is probably the last stage. We're talking now of going back to the committee level, taking these recommendations, going back to the floor of the Senate, and going through a clause-by-clause process. And once that is through, it's simply harmonizing that and what happens. So we're not even talking of end of the year. Somebody was saying before campaign start, if we are serious, within the next 1 month, we can have a bill sent to the president for assent, so that we can now begin to study how the implementation will begin to impact. Maybe before the campaigns, we can begin to even show live examples of what the startup bill has generated. So thank you very much.